Okay, once the preliminary review has been finished, what we're going to do is we're going to go on to step 3 of phase 1, which is the vision. All right. Now, we need to work at defining a high-level vision for the product, and this is done in conjunction with the client, right? We have the goals and objectives as stated by the client, and we're going to define that a little bit more in this stage, but we also need the vision, the why, right? And depending on how many stakeholder interviews are done, this could actually change drastically from stakeholder to stakeholder. And this is why we want to do this, right? Because you're going to have different sources of the client's company telling you different things. So you will need to perform interviews. And remember, once we do that preliminary review, that's going to give us kind of a defined questionnaire that we can start with to ask or potentially begin these interviews. But you're going to need to perform interviews with key stakeholders, and you really want to discuss, business outcomes of the initiative and what their hopes are for the project achievements. And I would do that, what are your hopes over the next 6 months, over the next year, over the next 2 years, 5 years, right? Now, you can also hold a workshop with the client team to discuss and prioritize the business goals identified once you've finished those stakeholder interviews. That's always really good to do. But note that key stakeholder interviews will be dependent on really, two things: the size of the company and the client's need to involve others in their company, right? If you're working with a larger company, you might interview 15 or 20 people. You might only interview 5, too. It all depends. I've seen other agencies interview 40, 45, 50 stakeholders, and that takes, it's going to take potentially more time and more people. If you work if you're working with a medium-sized company, you might interview 8 people, 9 people, 10 people. Small company, you might only interview 1. You might interview 2. So these numbers are not set in stone. But what you get from those interviews is when you'll start putting all that information that you get from those interviews into what I call a strategic vision deck or document. And it's a deck that outlines the understanding of a client's strategic vision for the initiative. The vision deck, you really want to focus on business outcomes and kind of the future state of where you need to be. And also the vision deck should be a living document that can shift and change if needed, because we're going to revise this after the current state is fully defined. Okay?